Hey, everybody. It's time for another NFL in London podcast. Go Canada for some of you who
Where?
are seeing this, or the first time this game could be over. But Team Canada, a lot of us, and I've got an England hat because we're both dual, so Ryan and I can support two countries. We're bi, as the kids would say these days.
This,
Um,
yeah, I am very. I you know what I'm telling you, I was feeling very low about the game all week until I watched that Cape Verde last night,
yes,
and
Cabo Verde.
it kind of gave me a bit of hope, to be honest with you.
Sure.
That like, you know what, like they took it to Argentina. That goal at the end was sick. It was one. It was
Yeah.
just unbelievable, and to think, why not? Why couldn't Canada do this? So there's no pressure.
Yeah.
They got all the pressure. Kind of just go for it. But the problem is we can't score. We're like
Yeah.
many NFL teams, we get to like inside the 20 and then we're just kicking field goals. We're not
Yeah,
even
the
kicking field
strikers
goals.
leave something to be dealt with. And, Morocco's a tough team. England, I think we're also talking as well. England's going to be tough because, we talk about NFL kind of stats. England, I don't think, has ever played at such a high elevation. Mexico City is a very high elevation. And it's just like the Denver Broncos. When you have that advantage, and also crazy fans, that gives you that home field advantage. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah,
And for people in the UK
apparently
not being
apparently the England team's the highest in England's like 700 feet, or the highest in
yeah,
England, all of Great Britain and Scotland. Uh, uh, this is like 7,000, so it's like
yeah.
literally 10 times. There's going to be thunderstorms, so it's just like, do you even stay up in Britain? I think I'm going to watch it in the morning. like like I do when I watch the Bills and have a very disappointing morning to start my day.
Just wake up and you already sort of know. And then, of course, when the NFL Network gives you the crawler, it's like the ending score in
Yeah,
this one is they lose by 10. You're like, what the fuck? So I'm sure everyone
that's
will be
it.
getting ready because their NFL Game Pass will expire in, it's July now, so the NFL Game Pass expires in August. I've already seen some people who are like, I got a great deal in Game Pass for 19.99.
Yeah,
It's like, no, you got that for 3 weeks. It resets
yeah.
in August. So that'll be good.
But
Um,
that's what I mean. It's going to be literally training camp's going to open in a couple weeks, right after the World Cup ends.
yeah.
We're into training camp. It's the perfect transition. This was the World Cup, and it's
God
been
bless us,
fantastic.
everyone, for
And it's
sports
been
fans.
fantastic.
So, yeah, not a lot of NFL news going on. I think the only I was at Taylor Swift's wedding last night, so I'm a little
Well,
hungover today. It was crazy. Tay Tay and Adam
yeah.
Sandler and everyone there. Um, I think the devastating news was, and I just forgot his name. Was it Chris Johnson from the
Oh
ALS
yes,
diagnosis from the
yeah.
Titans? Very
Very
tough.
sad.
And hopefully bringing back the ice bucket challenge, which I think we should. Those kind of things, they just sort of happen. You can't sort of say, oh, it's NFL related, but it is always tragic when you see someone, and those kind of things happen. So,
Yeah.
and it's this time of the off season too. It's also where guys, was it Terrian from the Lions? Um, yeah,
Oh yeah, something happened with him. He got in some trouble with like a robbery or something. I don't know what
yeah,
it was.
robbery and abduction. Two good
Ugh.
things you don't really want to put together. Maybe good on their own, but so that's it for him. So the Lions have already cut him, trying to find new people. So it's going to be, this time of year where you're just telling your players,
Yeah.
don't screw up,
You're
don't
just
screw up,
fingers
don't,
crossed. Please don't break the law. Nobody
yeah,
break the
don't
law.
break. But meanwhile, if it's someone who's not on your team, I'm always happy. Like maybe if half the Packers get arrested, they go to a wedding, and then they get arrested, and then the Bears coast to an easy schedule. So yeah, I think in terms of this last week, last podcast, Ryan and I did our probably way too early, but our top 10 quarterbacks. And this week we're going to look at our top 10 wide receivers. This changes the fluidity of it all. It all depends on what your quarterback situation is like, your strengths of schedule, and of course injuries. And the wide receivers have changed over the past couple of years in terms of who the top three, who the top receiving yards,
Yeah.
top for catching, and with contract wise. So you never really know, but we will do our best to do our worst. And Ryan and I will each have our schedule of what guys. So we'll start out in terms of the top 10 wide receivers in the league. I went through this list quite a bit, and so let me preface mine, at least my decisions for
All right.
this is that I
Let's
have
see.
chosen people which are for this year going forward. So this is my predictions in terms of it's not what they've done. It's like, okay, who's the top 10 going into this year? Looking at
Yeah.
it in terms of looking at my fantasy wise and everything. So mine are all Bears, which is weird. Um, no, so let's start, Ryan.
Uh,
Who is your number
uh,
10? Who would you say is
yeah.
your number 10th?
Definitely didn't put a bill on my list. Yeah, mine was it was interesting doing this little test and kind of going through it because I was gonna really struggle with that. There's gonna be like a plethora of guys and I'm not gonna
Yeah.
be able to know where to put them. But it really wasn't that case. I was really struggling to find the 10th and the ninth and
Yeah.
the 10th
Okay.
and like who they were
All
because
right.
there were just so many similar and it just when fantasy, it feels like there's all these dominant receivers. When you get into it, it doesn't feel like there's guys that would literally make you like I was considering like Rasheed Rice, and I was just like, I can't put him in the top 10. Like
Yeah.
it felt insane.
He drives too
So
fast. Yeah.
yeah, so I went again. Yeah, I went with a specific. Basically, I just go with my gut, Wade. Just go with the
Okay.
gut. I'm a man of emotion. I don't take in the numbers that much. But for my number 10, I went with AJ Brown. I wanted to
Okay.
find a way to keep him off the list, to be honest with you, because but I'm like I said, I'm only focusing this on this year only, not this in
Sure.
3 years. Is this going to be just focusing for 2026? And I can't keep him off because of Drake May the year he had last year. Because
Yeah.
I just think he's played with Vrabel before. There is that relationship, and there's always like a really nice honeymoon phase with receivers. It
Sure.
feels like when they go to a new team, like it feels like they get off to a really hot start. Like you saw it with Tyreek Hill in Miami when he
Yeah.
got there. He was just unstoppable, just all over the field. You're like, oh my God, like, why would you trade this guy? So I think you're gonna get a bit of that. My worry with AJ Brown is how is it going to be? Is he starting to kind of break down a bit? You know, big,
Yeah.
tall, strong 29-year-old receivers they fall off fast. Like these guys
Yeah.
hit that wall, unfortunately, really fast. But I think he's gonna have a good year this year. I don't think after this year I would put him on my top 10 for next year, but for this year, I'm putting him on top 10 just so I'm also not a Patriot hater. I'm gonna give him
Yeah.
some respect.
I didn't have him on my list, but I'm going to go my number 10, pretty a little controversial. I've got Nico Collins. And the reason,
Okay.
look, now this guy get injured a lot, can get injured, but when he's healthy, him and Stroud have a great combination. And you could see the way that they excelled at the end of last season. Um, you know, those two have a dynamic connection. I think that he is really good at getting himself open. There's years you're just like, he's, man, damn. And I think this year is his resurgence. I think that it showed towards the end of the season last year with the Texans. It's like, okay, you know, you got the D. Now, if you can get the rest of these pieces again, you guys are dangerous in this division. And so I've got Nico Collins. It seems a little weird, but I like his chances this year. I think he'll be the number one there. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. Number 10, Nico Collins. Going into number 9, Ryan, who's your ninth best wide
Well,
receiver
my
in the
number
game?
9 was actually Nico Collins as well. I agree with it.
Oh,
I think he's fantastic. I think he's underrated in the fact that he's just never had that stability on the other side across from him. You know, you had
hmm,
Tank Dell, but then he got destroyed on a play, and he's been out for like almost 2 years, to be honest with you.
yeah,
You had Stephon Diggs. You had that year when you were gonna have him, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Stroud coming into it. It just never seemed to work. And we even saw like Nico Collins had big games when what's his name, backup quarterback with the big neck comes in. The
oh,
big oh my God, I can't remember. I'm in football. I'm in World Cup mode.
yeah.
Um,
No, I know what you're talking
but
about too.
anyway, even when
Yeah,
it doesn't matter who the quarterback comes in, like Nico Collins is just a guy who gets open. He can beat you deep. He can put up 2 touchdowns, kind of like in the way AJ
yeah,
Brown was a couple years. It feels like he's in that, and it just
yeah,
feels like he hasn't been given that opportunity with the team around him to really just kind of let loose and not be double teamed or not always have to deal with the number one receiver or the number one corner every single time and being double teamed with the safety going over the top. So no matter what he contributes, so yeah, I put him number 9 and just the physical traits. He
yeah.
just has it all. He just has it all.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think he's good, and you know, as I said, it's nice to have him there. You and I both have it there. Are you thinking of Davis Mills? Is that the guy we're thinking
Davis
of?
Mills,
Davis
draft
Mills. He's
nick.
got two last names. Um, so my number 9. I think he's going to have a very good season this year. He proved it last year with the Saints. Is Chris Olave?
Nice.
Olave. Look, when he's 100%, he is dangerous. You know, he's a dual threat. I think in terms of being able his speed, his yards after the catch. And I think that showing the way that the Saints last year, the way that they were able to grow, he's sort of jumped up to sort of the number one guy. He's got solid hands. He's fast, and he can stretch the field. The Saints to me are one of those teams on the rise this year. I think they'll be more dangerous in the division. Kellen Moore has got that team in a little bit a better position in terms of comfortableness with the quarterback. So he's a bit more of a veteran, I think, that's going to help. So I've got Chris Olave at number
Yeah,
9.
he was the one I was considering for my number 10. It's just I felt he's only really had the one good year and he's had concussion
Yeah.
problems, and it just feels like if he does it again, yeah, I think has the ability to be a top 10. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm thinking. Like in terms of this year, in terms of the Saints and their ascendancy up to a higher ranking in that division. So Olave for me at number 9. All right, Ryan, number 8. Heading into your number
I
8 best wide receiver.
I went with George Pickens. I think George
Okay.
Pickens is seriously maybe has the top 5 ability, like even to be even better
Hmm.
than CeeDee Lamb, to be honest with you. It's just like a maturity thing. And now like the fact that I think he's gonna play on the franchise tag, so he's gonna have
Yeah,
that motivation to really kind
hunger.
of go out there. I
Yep.
kind of feel like I put him a bit too low on the list, to be honest with you, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna only kind of put him there because of CD Lamb's across from him. So the production might,
Yeah.
he's just not going to have the targets of some of
Sure.
the other guys on the list. But to me, like the skill set, like everything about him, when he's motivated and wants to play and is in a good headspace, he's unstoppable, it feels like. And the fact that he's usually getting the number 2 corner, which means he feasts all day. Uh,
Yeah.
I think Dallas has put themselves in this position where they have all these, like, they couldn't pay Micah because they didn't want to pay him all that money. So now they're gonna have to pay their number 2 receiver
Yeah.
the same amount of money they would have paid Micah, and you're already paying CD Lamb this much. So it's a bit of a mess. I don't know what they do
Oh yeah.
with it or how they deal with this, but it's a good problem to have, to be honest with you. So I'm going George Pickens at number 8.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's got those sticky hands. My number 8 from the ATL, big guy with big hands and fast, is Drake London. He's one of those guys that, to me, he's very solid in terms of it. He's the leading receiver for
Mm-hmm.
them. I think now with the quarterback situation with Atlanta, there was the up and downs with them last year in terms of trying to find, uh, a solid way to get him the routes instead of just relying on Bijan. So I think to me, Drake London is he's only going to see an upside this year. Now that there's more calm behind the line, and he can stretch the field, and he's a big body guy as well. So I like Drake London for me at number 8. Going into number 7, Ryan, who is your 7th best in terms of
I
wide
got.
receivers in the league?
I'm on Ross St. Brown. I just
Okay.
think he is an absolute target machine, and no matter what, like when he's healthy and at his best, like I remember when you would play, you would do some bets on him. And you'd bet his receptions over. It'd be like usually 6.5. Something he'd have like 6 at half, like almost. They'd
Hmm.
constantly get like, especially with that with Jared Goff, he's got that kind of relationship with him. He plays in the slot, so he's going to get a
Yeah.
lot of those short passes. He's going to get fed. He's unbelievable. He plays with such a chip on his shoulder his whole career about being a 4th rounder. He's always talked about it. And no matter what, he just produces every single week. He's kind of like what I thought Lab McConkey was going to be coming into this year,
Yeah.
and he kind of just didn't turn out that way because I remember there's nothing you can do. This guy gets open, he's getting the ball. He's kind of like I wish Khalil Shakir was in, but
Yeah.
he can run every single route. He can run the short stuff, the intermediate, probably even hit him deep, even though he doesn't do it as much. But to me, he is the perfect slot receiver, and if you have him on your team, like Tom Brady would have ate all day with Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slot, considering what he did. So I just think he's great, and unfortunately, he has Jared Goff as his quarterback. So
Yeah, and that's going to be the big ifs and what's going to happen this year. My 7 was your 8. I've got George Pickens, and like you, I thought maybe I should rank him higher. He was 3rd in receiving yards last year, and I think there's a lot of cases to say, is he now better than CD? I don't know. Like some of the catches
yeah,
he made were
I think
just
it's an argument.
phenomenal. And so when you talk about him getting the dummy coverage, him getting, the second guy, I can see him having a breakout year. The other thing that really propels me on this is that whole franchise tag. It's like, all right, you don't like me? All right, let's see what happens now. You want to franchise tag me? You're going to have to either pay me or trade me. And this is sort of one of those situations that when you have a guy who's maybe He's there to prove he's got a chip on his shoulder, but he's still very good, and he's young enough that I think that he could actually have. I debated moving him even higher up because I was like, I think this is going to be a big breakout year. He made some just phenomenal plays, and we know Dak loves to feed. He loves to feed everyone, so Dak's going to be throwing that ball around this year. I could see Pickens going higher, but he is my number 7.
I can also see Pickens going full Antonio Brown and going insane
Yes, no,
as
there's
well.
that. There's
So
that.
it's like kind of the other reason why you have to keep him low because he could
Sure.
literally blow up the whole locker room at any point. So because he's
Just
kind of has
doing
been
this in
that
the end
guy.
zone. I'm out of here.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
out of
You
here.
never see. You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, let's rounding out the number 6 pick. Number 6
Well,
for you, Run.
my number 6 was Drake London. I agree with you. I
Okay.
think Drake London is just so physically dominant when you watch him out there. Like again,
Hmm.
target machine. The way, no matter who he has as his quarterback, he's the guy. And he's never really had any help. Like he had Pitts, who's only just kind of coming to his own last year. Like he had that good rookie
Hmm.
year, and then 3 years of fantasy where you want to kill yourself for drafting him. And now he had that big year, so he got a contract. They've never really been able to figure out across from Drake London, so it just feels like he's constantly just having to kind of do it himself. But I remember against the Bills, he just came out and dominated us for a whole like 150 yards at half. He was just so
Yeah.
physically gifted, and so especially at the 50-50 balls, you need to and if he just had that stability at quarterback that other receivers have had, like he'd be up there with like Mike Evans, like the way Mike
Yeah.
Evans is. You'd look at him in the same stretch. But he's unfortunately now he's gonna have Tua, which I actually think is going to be a good thing for him. I think Tua is going to get him
Yeah.
the ball a lot because I think Tua before when he was with Miami, he never had like Tyreek Hill wasn't a physical receiver. He always had to kind of throw into anticipation, throw into space, or just throw it up and hope they just run to it. With someone like Drake London, he can now just be like 1-on-1. I just put it up in the air. He'll go down and get it, make me look good. I think Tua's never had that. I think my obviously when we get into off-streak predictions, mine is Tua is going to have a really good year in Atlanta
Yeah.
and have a little bit of a comeback year. Because I think having someone like Drake London and having Bijan as well that you can dump off to is going to be with Pitts. He's got all the weapons, and I think Drake London's fantastic. I think he has potential to be like top 3 in the league if he can get that quarterback play.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And you mentioned about that, like the dominance off the line. When you do have a quarter or a wide receiver that can sort of bounce the guy off the line and then find his route, he does have that. And that's what you need sometimes, as you mentioned with Tua, is like he bounces the guy off the line, he gets it, he gets an extra 3 or 4 yards off that, and it's already separation. So yeah, I think a big year for him. My number 6 was your number 7. I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Again, one of those guys who, he had like, 1,400 yards last year receiving. The only X factor being Goff. Liz Goff, we've seen him sort of, regress a little bit. I think that, there was a lot of hype going in for Detroit last year. But Goff struggled in a lot of cases. And as a result, they had to rely on the dual running back threat, which, is going to change again for Detroit. So, but I still think he is dominant. He's got those big, he reminds me of Megatron a bit with that big stretch. He's lanky, he's strong, he can find the spaces there, and it's the yards after catch as well. You better get him down or he's going to keep going. So to me, Amon-Ra St. Brown is pegged for a good year. So I'm not excited as a Bears fan for the Lions to do well. But in terms of a guy who's going to get you fantasy points, I think Amon-Ra's there.
So you're pegging him.
I like to peg guys. Yeah, I'm a pegger.
Pegging him.
Heading into our top 5, who is your number 5 of wide receivers?
I went with CeeDee Lamb.
Okay.
I almost considered like flipping them because I think George Pickens could have the better year this year. CeeDee Lamb, my only concern with him is his injuries. He gets kind of banged up. He got concussions. He's like, but man, when he's so smooth in the slot, he's so like he's got just such that connection with Dak. And when they're at their peak again, target machine, they're going to feed it to him. The problem now with Pickens kind of takes away from some of that, but I think what we've just seen from him the last couple of years, he's just been so consistently open, and you being able to you
Hmm.
have someone like him with his ability to be able to play outside and in the slot just opens up everything. To have like him and Pickens right next to each other, it just causes havoc on defenses. I think again, I wonder. I think later in this year he falls probably later to maybe like 8 or 9 next year. But I think for
Yeah.
now, I think with that offense, with the way that Dak and him, their relationship, I think he's as good as anyone in the league when healthy. So I'm gonna go CD number 5.
My number five, a guy who's in a lot of people's top three, but I've got Justin Jefferson. Now, look, there was
Fair enough.
a regression last year. And I think that, okay, let's see what Kyler does. Let's see what happens with the competition. Can he stretch the field? There's no doubt that this young man has still got talented, but when you see a drop like last year and you see sort of what happened, he wasn't as demonstrative and effective, I think, in a lot of the play. So I'm a bit wary because you wonder, okay, what's going to happen? Is Kyler going to be able to get him the ball and work this, or does Kyler not have the arm to be able to hit Justin because he has got a deep threat. He's fast, and he makes a lot of really good decisions. So I think that Justin was in the top three for the past couple of years, but you sort of go down. So I've got a number five, just because I'm a bit curious to see what happens with that team and how they're going to utilize him. Or is this going to be another disappointing season for Minnesota and he has to pay the price for it? So my number five, Justin Jefferson. Heading into our number four pick, Ryan, who is your fourth pick in terms of best wide receivers?
Mine was just, I agree with everything you said. I put Justin Jefferson. My number 4, I think some receivers find themselves to be like quarterback proof. No matter what
Hmm.
happens, they're able to kind of do whatever they want. And like, no matter who steps in, we kind of saw that with like Jamar Chase. Joe Flacco comes in. Jamar Chase
Yeah.
has a game where he has like 20 receptions one game. Like they're just feeding him. Doesn't matter who is it. Browning comes in. He has good games.
Yeah.
You don't see that. But Justin Jefferson fell off a cliff in games. If he was on your fantasy last year with JJ McCarthy, like there were games you had to consider benching him to a point,
Yeah.
and you never thought in a million years you would ever say that. So, but the reason you have to is because the quarterback play was so bad with like Baumner and JJ McCarthy, and I think Kyler Murray. I mean, I hope it gives you a little bit of stability. I think he's going to be much better. And I feel like Justin Jefferson heard the noise, and I think he heard all the stuff about what happened. So I'm looking for a big bounce back game, especially kind of week one. See him and Kyler maybe like 2 touchdowns, just really kind of
Yeah.
start out hot. So I think he's going to be playing with a big chip on his shoulder because I think again you're going to see that when the NFL Top 100 comes out, and that's like a big thing
Hmm.
amongst players. I think you're going to see a big drop off of Jefferson where he was probably hovering around the top 10, and you're going to see him maybe fall back a bit because of he just kind of disappeared for long stretches, and no matter what happened, they just couldn't get anything to work last year, and it was a disaster. So I agree. I'm expecting big things, but it could be in a good way. Like in fantasy, he could drop, and he could be a guy now who falls to like 7, 8, 9,
Yeah.
10, maybe even like end of the first round. Jefferson,
Oh
people are a
yeah.
bit thrown off from last year, so he could be that like steal of the draft this year, kind of like in the way McCaffrey was, where everyone was too worried about the injuries and everything, and then
Yeah.
just was just as dominant as before. So I agree with you, everything you said about Jefferson.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting thing because you look at the way that Cousins was just able like fly fish with the guy, just throw it out there and he would just go. And so it is going to be an interesting thing to see if the quarterback you don't want to have a sports car like that just sitting in your garage. You want to open
Yeah.
that up on the roads. My number four is one you had before, CeeDee Lamb. We've talked about what we think the Cowboys are going to be like this year. Obviously, Dak puts up lots of yards. And so to me, this is going to be a close one again. I've vexed between going back and forth between him and Pickens. They're a good one too, in terms of, and I think they're both deservedly two players that deserve to be in a top 10. It's going to be, he is so good in man coverage. He can beat you. He's got good hands. He reads routes really well. He can read defenses really well, and him and Dak just have that connection, the shinning, like they just have that together where they just sort of know each other. So it's just a matter again, can he stay healthy? it's also good too because it does seem a bit of animosity between whether it's simmering between him and Pickens. So it's going to be interesting to see how they push each other. You know, who's going to be the number one, because obviously CD's got to feel a little bit of the heat. He's paid, but what if this kid can, you know, gets more yards and makes him look bad? You don't want to be the guy who looks like a chump when the kid is like taking your job. So I think CD's going to bounce back from that. CD Lamb, mine number 4. Heading into our top 3 wide receivers, Ryan, who do you have at number 3? I think we probably have the same people, maybe not in the same order, but let's find
Yeah,
out.
maybe not the same. Well, the funny thing is, my number 3, I actually considered for number 1,
Okay, yep.
not number 2. But I had to drop him for a couple of reasons. And it's Puka Nacua. I put number 3.
Okay.
I wanted to put him number 1 because I think when Puka Nacua's at his best, there's nothing like the catches he
Yeah.
makes, the way you can utilize him as like in short yardage and end arounds and in little screen passes where he takes it. He catches everything that comes up to him in traffic, on the sidelines. He's got Sean McVay. He's got Matt Stafford. He's got everything that you could want to be amazing. Except he's had the weirdest offseason I've ever seen
Yeah.
of a player, right? Where he's gone to rehab. He went like crazy he's going on streams and
Yeah.
acting weird and being drunk on the street. And to me that all just went, and I think like that's why you haven't seen the Puka Nacua contract extension. So
Yeah.
I don't like the weird stuff. I don't know if fame in LA, maybe it's not good for Puka Nacua, and you don't know if this is something that's going to linger. But aside from that, when you draft him on your team, there's no one better. He's unbelievable at playing.
Yeah.
He's so consistent. And the fact that Sean McVay's your coach, like you're gonna get the ball. Like no matter what. Sean
Yeah.
McVay is gonna find ways to get his best players the ball. Matt Stafford was the MVP last year. I mean, and that's but and I that's why I was actually considering him number 1, just because best offensive coach, best quarterback, best situation. So, but I had to put him 3 because he had the weird offseason. And I don't like it that he's hanging out with streamers. So, for my
Yeah.
own old man with his fist in the air, I'm like the young kids and the streamers. So he gets demoted to 3 for that.
He should go into the pegging. No, I'm with you. I agree that there is some worry about them, and you see all that stuff. You know, I've got him earlier than this, but yeah, I agree that there's some things to worry about. I'll touch on that. My number 3 is offensive player of the year in JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Ooh, what? Number 3.
Yeah, I got him at number 3. Look, you're going to have a
Fair
great
enough.
year, and then you're not going to have as great of a year. And so there's a lot of hype that goes into it. There's a lot of people that sort of look and go, okay, we're gonna cover this guy a bit more. You know, anytime you get into, to me, the top 3 of the wide receivers, there's going to be difficulty to retain your title, and also there's a bit of hype that you get into it. You've won the Super Bowl. I don't know if you get fat, you don't go crazy like Puka, but there is a lot more pressure on it, and there's a lot more pressure on the quarterback. And I think we know that everyone's going to be gunning for them. So he's solid. To me, he's the number 3, but I just don't see him having the same numbers as he had last year, or having the same. You know, he's always going to be good. He's good hands. He's fast. He's smart. But I think in this year there's going to be a bit of a drop, so I've got him at number 3. Who is your number 2 then, Ryan?
My number 2 is Ja'Marr Chase. I think Ja'Marr Chase probably overall is the most talented of everybody. I think he's got the most speed, the smarts, the run after catch, the just ability to just break games open. The fact that he's got Joe Burrow as his quarterback, they played together in college. The fact that he also has T. Higgins across from him, which I think is an advantage that other teams that some of these other guys don't have. And I think if anything, that kind of hurts him a bit. Why you could maybe put him a bit further down because he's so blessed with all these gifts. But again, like I said before, when you know Joe Burrow went down and Flacco came in, you know, Ja'Marr Chase just kept playing. He just had great games. Was able to dominate. I just think every time I watch him, I'm in awe of just how simple he makes getting open. There was one game last year, I think he had like 20-something targets, and no matter what, they were just all over the field. Just open. He's just absolutely gifted, and him and Joe Burrow on that page. And I actually think he might have probably the biggest year of his career, even though he's had probably a couple of years ago was his best one. And I think this might be because I think Joe Burrow's going scorched earth this year, and he's gonna have a real chip on his shoulder to stay healthy And he's going to probably be my front runner for MVP this year, I would say, if I'm thinking about it now. So I am going to go Jamar Chase number two.
My number two, obviously, it's sort of figured out, but it's Puka Nakua. And to your point, look, I think they caught his bad behavior early on, in turn because it happened very quickly. It's sort of the end of the season, start of the season. You're like, whoa, what's going on with Puka? I think they all sat him down and said, "Hey, young man, this is not what we do, and you need to temper this behavior if you want to play because we don't want you going Antonio Brown. We don't want you, having this kind of crazy season." He is insane in terms of him and his ability to get open. As you say, he can run kind of any route, and he's going to be dangerous in terms of that. His yards after catch, he is slippery. It's like he's got lube on him. You can't get him down, and it's very difficult to peg. Well, actually, pegging's easier with lube, but he is. He's just to me. But again, you do worry when you have that. I think they've got it early enough in the season. Like, okay, young guy, let's get back into it. You're playing football now. Let's get rid of these other distractions. Taylor Swift is not inviting you to the wedding. I know he wasn't there. So my number two is Puka Nakua. All right, that brings us to your number one, who I think I know, Ryan. Tell us who your number one wide receiver is.
It is JSN. I think that, I mean, I remember watching the halfway through the season, and just this guy was on pace to break every record that was on for receivers. He was on pace to go over 2,000. He was so dominant, and he's done it with Geno Smith. He's done it with Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it with he does it with Rashid Shaheed across from him, and and it just doesn't matter. This dude is unguardable. He is, no matter what, just getting better and better. And each year, the fact that he's Offensive Player of the Year, I think he could do it again this year. I think there might be a bit of a loss with them losing the offensive coordinator. I like to see how that changes. But I mean, when you have a guy, it's just like it's easy to throw to someone when he's that wide open all the time. And again, target machine. When I used to bet early in the season, just bet JSN over receptions, over yards. Like, he starts out hot. I think he's going to be as dominant as he's ever been. And I think another year with Sam Darnold working together is just going to make them better. The fact that he was Offensive Player of the Year with a quarterback who just stepped in and they'd never even thrown a ball together says huge volumes about how good he actually is, because there's not many people that do that. Usually you need to gain some rhythm and but it was from the get-go, these two were connecting. So, and I just think it's because it's easy to play football when a guy's miles open half the time, and he is. JSN is probably the best route runner in the NFL, and no one gets open like him. So I love watching him. He's one of my favorite players to watch. So I wish he had a better Super Bowl. That's my only thing. He had that kind. He got a bit injured in disappointing Super Bowl because he was so good all year. He's memorable.
Yeah, no, I get it, and it's just, to me, it's just like you can't. It's hard when you've got so many competitive wide receivers to hold that fire twice. So mine is a guy that you mentioned about, the guy who's had the most receiving yards since 2024 combined, is Ja'Marr Chase. And to your point, it was those games when Flacco stepped in and you're like, yeah, but he's not going to be able to. And again, it just made it look so easy. His separation, his speed. It's like, how the hell is this guy open? How is he open all the time? He's 7'11", 24/7. He's open. Like, you just can't stop the guy. I think we've seen obviously the drops in the Bengals in terms of injuries, in terms of not having the right defensive personnel, not having the right offensive personnel. And it seems like, getting rid of Hendrickson, getting rid of a lot of pieces, and they brought in some pieces. To me, it looks like, okay, this is like, we were there, we were in the big show. Now we've got to at least try to make a chance to come back. So I can see this being his big year. I think Burrow will be healthier this year. Those two will connect. As you say, T. Higgins is still a depth threat. I considered, when I started looking, I was like, oh, is T. Higgins in the top 10? And he wasn't, to me. If you look between Higgins and Pickens, I'm taking Pickens. So, but Ja'Marr Chase, to me, he's just one of those guys that he's always going to find a way to get open. He's always in those sort of top three in terms of yards. So to me, this is the year Ja'Marr Chase leads it, and I would be looking to put him on my fantasy. If not for pegging, he'd be on my pegging team. That's it. Is there anyone else on the list that you think that honorable mentions
Not
or
really.
anyone else?
That's sort of the Olave was my only other one. There wasn't really
Yeah,
like I'm sure this goal. We're going to see somebody take a jump. I think next year, like
yeah,
someone like
for sure.
Ibuka. I think someone like
Yeah,
Ibuka on Tampa. There's going to be
yeah,
one of the rookies. You know, Malik
sure.
Neighbors was one, but I just didn't know if he didn't get injured or tore his ACL, he probably would have been on the list because I think
Yeah,
he, when
I agree
healthy,
with
is
that.
that good. But again, I just think that's the great thing about receivers. They just blow up when they blow up. Sometimes it's the first year. Sometimes it's like the fourth year. It took Nico Collins a
Sure.
while to blow. So,
Yeah.
and so that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, and I was also thinking because I thought, if Tyreek Hill ends up on the Chiefs and they're able to get him, does he have one
Yeah,
last flower show where you're like,
he
holy
could.
crap? So there's a few guys like that you sort of look at and go, as you say, there's going to be always somebody new, someone hot that's coming up. So yeah, we'll just have to wait. Getting very excited for the season. Folks, that's it for this podcast. This is being, we're hoping if you get this a little later on that some of the World Cup schedules don't ruin it for us. But
Yeah.
enjoy, everyone. We'll be back to football soon. Thanks for listening.